Welcome back to the dojo, everybody. This is True Talk Tuesdays with TruMotion, where a couple of guys talk about how to make the world a better place and hopefully make your day a little bit better in the process. My name is Mark, followed by my co-host Stephen. Let's get things kicked off. Well, first off, we kind of like to do a little recap of the week and see how things have been going. Stephen, how's your week been?
Thank you, Mark. My week's been pretty good. Got some constructive criticism on one of my businesses, and I made some changes about it. And I got a new microphone essentially, and it sounds really nice.
Really?
It's
okay.
I got it this morning, and I was tested out, and it gave me the chills, like how nice it was in contrast to what I was using. So hopefully, that's a sign of good changes to come, a sign of more opportunities. How's your week been?
It's been interesting. I had an appointment the other day, and it turns out I need to get my nose fixed because
get a nose job.
Yeah, apparently I need to get a nose job. I've got a deviated septum on my left side, and it's been making it hard to breathe. And I've been wondering why it's been hard to breathe. And I've always kind of thought I've had that problem. And being in martial arts, you kind of tend to get hit in the face every now and then. So
once
it's like,
in a while, yeah.
So I was like, oh man, it's like getting harder and harder to breathe through my nose. Like I should get this checked out. But being the typical dude, you're just like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it. But then my wife's been like on my ass about it, and so it's like, fine, I'll get it done.
Here we go.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a nose procedure coming up probably in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how things go. But other than that, it's been good. We've got tournament coming up next week. Still a little disappointed with our participation levels, but we'll work through it. I really need to lay into these black belts because it's something else. I mean, out of the 8 black belts that we have, you and Jay are the only ones signed up, and that's kind of not a very good representation of what we'd like to present forth from the South Jordan Dojo. So, but either way, you know what? We'll make sure the students that we do have going have the best experience they can possible, and make sure that they're rewarded for all their hard work and effort. So, but getting on to it, let's get right into our top 5 list.
Belay what you're doing, me hearties. It's time for this week's top 5. All hands to cannons, or else you're swimming in Davy Jones' locker.
All right, well, this week's top 5 is a little bit different than normal. It is and it isn't. It's kind of combined the last few weeks where we've done movie stuff and then we've also done music stuff. Now it's both of them together. It's top 5 movie theme songs. In reality, we should have probably just called it the top 5 John Williams theme songs, but we tried to make sure we at least got one non-John Williams theme in there. But Stephen, who you got on your list?
All right. Well, in no particular order, we've got Pirates of the Caribbean. He's a pirate. Great, fantastic song by Hans Zimmer. So.
Yep, Hans Zimmer.
And then we've got the Jurassic Park theme song. Wonderful song. Really intense. Lord of the Rings. There's many songs in there, but the Lord of the Rings song is awesome. Interstellar, main theme, John Williams,
Yeah.
And then the Indiana Jones. I really
can't
like
go wrong
that
with
one.
the Indiana Jones theme.
Yeah.
Now, I was just thinking, the Lord of the Rings theme, they are not John Williams, right? Who does that?
Need to look that one up.
I was going to say, it sounds very much John Williams-esque, but I don't know if it's actually John Williams or not. That's going to be one. That's an interesting one because it has a very unique sound, but yet it doesn't sound like your typical John Williams or Hans Zimmer.
The name that's coming up is Howard Shore.
Howard Shore. Well, congratulations, Howard Shore. You made the top 5.
Congratulations.
Has he done anything else since then?
Interesting question. Let's see.
Because I'd never heard of Howard Shore. Granted, I mean,
it's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Right
okay,
here.
so he's just done.
At the disc. And we've got a couple other things. Yeah, he does a bunch of other
Gotcha.
things.
But basically, The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, he's all Tolkien'd out, huh? There you go. Well, good. That's a great top 5 list. I mean, it's crazy. I was actually talking with my mom about this the other day because I told her what the top 5 list was going to be, and that's what she said. She should just call it the top 5 John Williams list.
That's classic.
I go, I know, and because she's a music major.
Oh,
so she's way into the classics, the Bachs, Beethovens, all that stuff. And it's interesting because times have effectively switched for composers. If you really think about it, movie score people are your modern day composers.
That's right.
And they compose it to a already finished like product, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So they enhance that viewing experience to where, like you said, when you're talking about Jurassic Park, like you feel it. It's a very powerful sound. And, that's what these composers do is they already take an existing picture in your head because you're visually seeing it, and then they enhance it with the music that they're composing. Versus back in the day, they made a story with their music.
Right. Yeah.
So it was backwards effectively. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how like times have kind of come full circle that way. But yeah, it's crazy. These movie score composers are your modern day Bachs and Beethovens and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a dying art too, because a lot of newer composers, crazy enough to say, don't know how to read music, and they can do everything that an orchestra can on a keyboard.
The term is sound engineer now.
Yes, and composers hate sound engineers.
Yeah,
hate them. I remember listening to Kevin Smith's podcast where it was the Fat Man on Batman.
Okay.
And he was talking to the guy that composed the Batman animated theme song series, the music for that series. And that's when he told him, he goes, dude, I don't know how to read music. Like, I don't know how to play an instrument. And Kevin Smith is just like, what? Like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, I know what sounds good, and I know what I'm trying to accomplish, and I can punch everything in on a keyboard.
Yep.
And he's like, if you want violins, hey, you punch in these keys. If you want this, you punch in these keys. If you want that, you punch in those keys. And he goes, how, like, that's it? And he goes, yeah, like the days of using like full orchestras are kind of going away. And he said he had the chance to meet John Williams, and he gave him the big old cold shoulder, like, don't even talk to me.
Oh. Because
it's like they don't like how they're producing the music, in essence, I guess you could say.
No, those artists, they're just
artists. And it's interesting because if you think about it, because they're not using an orchestra, like how many musicians are put out of work because of that?
Quite a few.
So, and it's becoming a lost art, like live musicians. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely something that we want to keep alive as long as possible. So, but my top 5, again, it's almost pretty much damn near John Williams, but I've got the Star Wars theme, Harry Potter,
nice,
Indiana Jones as well, Halloween,
ooh,
shout out to John Carpenter, and the Jaws theme. So the one thing I liked about the Halloween is it had a very distinct sound, and you knew exactly what was going on when you heard it. It's almost like, oh crap, like it's about to go down. It's like, here he comes. Yep. And same thing with like the Jaws theme song. I've never seen another movie where music played more of a role than the Jaws theme song.
Yeah, the music was Jaws.
The music was Jaws until the very end. And it's interesting because it was scarier until you saw him at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you have this like envision in your head of this like giant shark.
You take it to the mind's eye. And
exactly.
It becomes way more intense.
And then all of a sudden you see the shark and you're like, oh, it's just a big old shark again. Even though it is terrifying as all get out. But I also have one more honorable mention. My only honorable mention is the Rocky theme song.
Ooh, okay.
Because that one, you hear that and you definitely know what's going down with that. Be like, I know what movie that's from, and it kind of gets you all hyped up too. So it makes you want to run those stairs and like pump your fist up in the air and
absolutely, that's
try to go beat up Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
So, But hey, let us know what your top 5 or one of your top 5 favorite movie themes songs are. I know we've probably missed a bunch, but those are the ones that kind of pop into my head right away. I'm trying to think of other ones that are not John Williams related.
It's hard.
Like you've got the Tim Burton Batman theme from Danny Elfman. We were actually talking about that. It's like there's 3 main composers nowadays. It's Danny Elfman, Hans Zimmer, and John Williams.
Yep.
And it's like they all 3 have such a distinct, different sound to them. And it seems like you can only find Danny Elfman stuff with Tim Burton. So it's like those 2 kind of go hand in hand. Well, it's like, John Williams and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
I mean, those 2 go hand in hand too. But yeah, let us know what some of your favorite movie themes are. And, I'd love to hear what everybody else has got to say because there's so many different types of genres and, styles out there that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. That was a good one. But all right, now let's get to the meat of things. Let's move on to our Ask the Senseis.
Ask the Senseis. It is wisdom and insight they offer. Ready are you to uncover the secrets of this week's questions?
All right, this week's Ask a Sensei is brought to you by a few different people. One of them was Jamin. Jamin and I was taking Jamin to the dentist the other day, and I was like, hey, dude, like, what should some of the questions be for the top 5? Or the Ask a Sensei, he goes, for the podcast? I go, yeah. It's like, we'll let you pick the questions this week. So Jamin picked 2 of these questions. And the other one, as we were talking about it, I was like, oh, I think this would be a good one to talk about. So question number 1 is, what event did you learn the most from? So a particular event that happened in your life where you're like, oh, dang, that taught me a lot.
Karate themed or no?
Either one.
Oh,
you could probably do 2 if you want to, because there's so many different life lesson learning opportunities that we've had that it's hard to just pick one.
I thought about the karate theme, but now that it's open to anything, that's a whole other can of worms there. Karate theme, it's hard to say that I'd like to go in and just do a test and not have anything come out of it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to learning, I think putting your feet to the fire and running through a test there, things stick with you. There is, like, you will remember things. You will learn a lot from being tested. Tournaments are the same way. You can, what sticks with me is every time that I've gone and the result that I've gotten.
Yeah.
It's like good or bad. It's going to be there. It's going to teach you something. I'm going to say that recently, the Dragon test that we had this year at All-Star Weekend, that was very eye-opening as well. It really showed me what I was physically able to do and what it's like, oh, well, maybe I need to work on this. Maybe I need to approach this a different way. And fortunately, you're able to, there's many ways to get to the direction, right? It's not like you're going for one or none. So
yeah,
I that was eye-opening in itself, that it said, okay, well, this way you can't really succeed this way, or it's going to be very difficult. Think about it and approach it from this other direction. So those are the ways to go for me. Jury's still out when it comes to non-karate based learning things.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out a good one to bring up. So I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely let you think about that for a minute. But it's interesting when you bring up tournaments, because I start thinking about each one of your tournament experiences, and I think after your first one, I think you're like, I don't want to compete anymore. I remember you telling me that. Like, I don't know. I think I'm done with tournaments because I don't think you got the result that you're obviously wanting, and you put in a lot of work on it, and you're like, damn, I put in a lot of this work, and I didn't get the results that I wanted. So you're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do tournaments again. I remember having that conversation. I was like, okay, well, we got tournament not for another year. Let's kind of see what happens. And each tournament since you've continued to do them, you've progressively gotten better and better and better. And that's one of those things to where it's like, yeah, very rarely first time out, you try something, you succeed. I mean, there are those instances where you go out and you try it the first time and you're like, damn, I just blew that thing out of the water. Like, this is easy. Why is this so hard? But most of the time it's like, no, like, God, I got my ass kicked. Like, this sucks. Like, I worked really hard for this and I'm not feeling good about it. Well, that's typically the first time you try something. And all of a sudden, if you go back and you try it again, like, okay, now I'm a little bit better. That I worked a little bit harder. I had a little bit more, realistic expectations. Like, but I improved. I did obviously far better than I did last tournament. And then you go back again and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm getting even better. Then you go back again and you're like, now I'm competing all the time. Then you go back again and now it's like, all right, now I'm a force to be reckoned with. People are competing against me. I'm not competing against them. They're competing against me. And that's the thing, that as long as you stay consistent with it and you keep pushing through, that's where the growth happens. And it usually never comes from a very comfortable first experience. So, but going on to like martial arts themed, an event that taught me the most, I would probably say would be my first degree black belt test, in terms of when I realized something and then I was okay with that, everything changed. So obviously black belt tests, they've changed a little bit, but when I was doing the first degrees were usually anywhere from 6 to 8 hours long. I mean, they were ridiculous. I mean, so I think mine, we clocked in at like 7 hours or some nonsense like that.
So average.
Yeah, average. Yeah, average black belt test. Yeah, we started around 7 in the morning and we ended around like 3, I believe, 2 or 3. And then halfway through the test, we started sparring. And I started sparring one of my good buddies at the time, Philip Tolman. I still love that dude to death even till today. I haven't talked to him in a while. I should give him a call. But Philip and I started sparring, and Philip's very much a straightforward, like, wrestler type spar. He's a big guy, kind of like me, and he'll just overwhelm you and try to overpower you. And we were sparring back and forth, and then all of a sudden you just pull off that perfect combo. And for me, it was a jab cross roundhouse kick, and I just remember the instep of my foot hitting him right in the temple. And I didn't hit him hard, but I hit him in the right spot hard enough. And I hit him, and I just knew it was bad. I was like, damn it. And after I kicked him, I landed forward and I hugged him. He goes, what are you doing? I'm like, just relax, dude. He's like, what's wrong? And he's like, I'm basically holding him up at that point.
So he doesn't fall, yeah.
And then at the time, Master Clegg was running the test. He runs over. He's like, hey, Mark, turn around, kneel down. And I was like, okay, yeah, turn around, kneel down.
Yep.
Because he's basically trying to get his wits about him. Now, luckily, he didn't get knocked out cold, but he was definitely woozy. And one of the rules of the test is you don't injure people.
That's right.
It's like, you don't injure people. You don't hurt people. So I'm thinking in my head, well, that sucked because I hurt somebody. Like, did I hurt him bad? No, but it was hard enough. So I had to, while you're testing, I'm running through this entire process of, do I just leave and come back later? Do I finish the test? What do I do? What do I do with this? And it's like, well, you started it, you got to finish it. Okay. Now, if you don't pass, you know exactly why you didn't pass, and you don't get upset. Don't blame anybody else. It was your own damn fault. Just persevere. Okay. Have a good attitude. Make sure you're representing the people that train you well, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff. You're pep talking yourself. Mm-hmm. So at that point I was like, well, I already failed. So what the hell? And I just kind of relaxed at that point. And I for lack of a better term, I didn't care. So by not caring, I looked really, really good. Okay. Now, granted, I said going for my black belt. I was actually technically going for my first brown belt. So I wasn't even testing for black belt. But once I flipped that switch on, like, whatever, I already failed this test. So, like, let's see what I can do. Let's have some fun with it. And I just, like, kind of relaxed a little bit. and didn't have that added pressure of like performing, I performed extremely well. So then the end of the test comes, and you're kneeling down, you're meditating, and you can sense when people are in front of you. People aren't stupid. So it's like I'm sitting there and I'm like, nobody's coming in front of me. It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody came behind me. Okay. It's like, all right, well, you knew this going into it, so don't be surprised. Don't be a dumbass. Just, if you don't have anything, you don't have anything, and just take your belt, go home, try again next time. So all of a sudden, they're like, all right, open your eyes. Nothing's in front of you. Okay, your belt's behind you. Nothing's in front of you. And I'm like, all right, I knew it. Yeah. Okay, all right. You knew this going in. Don't act surprised. This was going to happen. Like, okay. So then all of a sudden, Russell's like, congratulations. If you have a new ring, put it on. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just, at this point, I start looking. And the people putting on their belts are brown belts. And I looked over, there's 2 other people testing for black at the time. 2 or 3. And I looked over at them, and they're not putting anything on either. They're just sitting there. And I was thinking, if nothing else, they would have just given me my original belt back and just had 2 stripes on it. So I'm thinking, why is my belt not in front of me to at least put my belt back on? So I'm running through this in my head. I'm like, now I'm confused.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then after he bows the brown belts out, he goes, all right, if you don't have a belt, stand on up front position. You're continuing on with your test. And I just kind of sat there. And I go, and Russell looks at me and goes, Mark, stand up. I go, sir, like I failed because I'm not going for black. He goes, you are now, because he's like, I was about ready to fail you, but then I started watching you and you just looked too good to fail.
Whoa.
So I was all, okay. So I ran against the back wall and we tested for about another hour. And yeah, I ended up getting my black belt because I relaxed and stopped caring, so to speak, which sounds, you never want to say you don't care, but I didn't care how I looked. Because in my mind, I was like, you already failed, so might as well try things. And if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good because you already failed anyways. And by having that mentality, I was able to relax and everything came off very smooth and very effortless. And the fact that when you're in those stressful situations, if you can just relax, man, I can't tell you how important it is to learn how to breathe and how to relax. Don't take things too serious. Just, okay, hey, this is a test, okay? This isn't going to kill me. It's not a life or death situation. Just relax. Just relax. There's no point in getting all upset and anxious because that's not going to solve any problems. But I can't control myself. I can't control how I react. So the biggest lesson I took away from that was I'm in control of things, not things are in control of me. And that was probably the biggest lesson, martial arts wise, that helped me with basically everything else that you could think of when you're dealing with like day-to-day people and lives and all that stuff. So, did you think of a non-martial arts story?
I was too enamored in your story.
Oh.
But I think you're right. And if I were to pull a non-martial arts story, I mean, I learned so much. I think stepping away from corporate America, stepping away from a regular, what people would say 9 to 5,
yeah,
and trying to make a living as an entrepreneur, as someone who hustles, that's I'm learning so much.
Yeah,
like my head hurts with how much knowledge I have to take in. Just this morning, I was learning so much, and now I'm kind of like on the seat. I want to go home and try it. I want to go do and try stuff. And then you have to balance that with the fatigue of being like, oh, well, you've got this, you're tired now.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things. Unfortunately, I don't have a specific example, but that's sort of the chapter I'm in right now.
No, I definitely get you to where it's like most people don't understand the concept of like, when it comes to now making a living, you eat what you kill.
That's right.
It's like you're not handed anything anymore. So if you want a paycheck, like you got to go out there and find that paycheck.
You have to design systems to start to support you.
Yeah, exactly.
And no one else is building. There's plenty of resources. There's plenty of people who can guide you, but you still have to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, nobody else will do it for you.
Right.
Exactly. And that's unfortunately, man, that's becoming lost on people nowadays, through that instant gratification society and social media where you click on it and you're like, hey, I'm 21 and I'm a millionaire, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, all right, you're not fooling anybody, dude.
Right.
And it's like, okay, in order to be successful, they always say, an overnight success is a 20-year process.
That's right.
So you have to, like you said, you got to get down in the weeds. You got to get your hands dirty. Nothing in terms of success in a entrepreneurial state or small business state will ever come from you just showing up.
Yeah.
Showing up is important.
Consistency
is important. Don't get me wrong. If you don't show up, and then you have no opportunity to do it. But showing up is just the first step.
Showing up is what a lot of people who are unhappy with their 9-to-5s do.
Yeah.
Is they show up, and
yep.
That's where they'll be, and they know that if they're patient, every other week they get a deposit in their bank account.
Yep. So. But then you have the people that aren't satisfied with showing up, and they want to show up for a purpose.
Yeah. And
it's a dying breed. There's not too many of them out there anymore, and we need more of those types of, go get them people that are have enough courage to take that step. That's very scary. Very, very scary. Like I remember back in 2008 when they offered me the West South Jordan School, and I was all like, I don't want it. They're like, well, it's yours. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, I'm not taking it. And it took a day or two for them to convince me that this is a great opportunity for you. Because again, it's scary. You have no guarantee of anything. And I'm glad they convinced me to do it because now I'm, we're at where we're at. But it's a very scary step to jump into the deep end and not know what's underneath you. You don't know how long you're going to have to be there. And you don't know how well you can swim.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Can I swim in this water? Or is
yeah.
It,
It's a very scary, scary, scary thing. But yet to have the courage to overcome that, man, everything is a product of your efforts. So if you succeed, it's because it's a product of your efforts. If you fail, it's because it's a product of your efforts. Or you can say it's your fault. Either way, it's your fault. And anytime you hear the term your fault, you think it's a negative connotation.
Right.
But if you're successful, guess what? That was your fault.
It's your fault.
That was your fault. If you're not successful, that was your fault too. So I think more people need to get back to that state of mind of like, if I'm going to be something, it's because I'm going to be that.
Me.
Yes. Nobody else is going to make me something. Okay. If you want to become something, you have to do that. So I would probably say my biggest event, it's not even an event, but it's something that taught me the most was when my wife and I first started dating.
Okay.
Because she's very much an open book and she talks a lot, and so does the rest of my family. Mm-hmm. They talk a lot, which God bless them. I don't. But it's forced me to learn how to communicate a lot better. Because for the longest time, it's just you. You just have to communicate with you. As long as you're okay, nobody else, you don't care about anybody else. But all of a sudden you intermix this other person. Oh, damn, I'm sorry. You know what? You're right. I didn't call and tell you that I was going to be late. Man, I'm so sorry I didn't. Simple things in terms of like, hey, I'm staying later tonight. Like, don't wait up. I'll be home when I can. Or, hey, something happened at the dojo. Like, I got to take care of it. Then I'll come home. Simple communication tools go a long way. and being honest in those conversations, even though sometimes those conversations may be very uncomfortable. But being honest with each other and communicating with each other, that's not only helped me in our relationship, but it's helped me in the dojo. It's helped me with business partners. It's helped me with pretty much everything. And it just comes from being honest with each other, communicating with each other. We sorely undervalue and underestimate the value of communication. Communication is so important, and yet we don't really talk about it a whole lot. So if you're ever struggling with something, I guarantee it's from a lack of communication.
Yep.
Guaranteed. If you have an issue with a person at work, guaranteed it's a lack of communication. Okay.
I mean, this is a funny analogy that I thought of, but if everyone communicated perfectly, movies would be really boring.
Yes, they would.
Because all movie suspense comes from lack of communication.
And it creates drama.
Yep.
Okay. And people love drama. But exactly, yeah. If everybody had perfect communication skills, there'd be no need for drama or conflict.
Exactly.
Because everybody understands what to expect and what's going on. But yet a lot of people don't communicate that clearly. And a lot of people take direct communication as people being an asshole. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, I need you to do this. Yes. Okay. I will do that. But yet everybody's like, oh, you talk to each other that way? What do you mean? She told me exactly what she needed me to do.
I feel attacked.
Yeah. Like, why would I take that any other way?
Yeah.
Well, you're looking at things not from a communication standpoint.
No.
So it's like, either listen to what they're saying or shut up and just mind your own business. But yeah, you definitely want to have very good communication skills. And that just comes through talking with people. You have to get back to talking to people. So I would say that it's not an event, but getting involved with my wife has taught me communication better than anything, because she's forced me to. Mm-hmm. And not because she's like trying to be a bully or nothing. It's like, no, you're going to communicate because I need to know what's going on.
You're in a safe space. You can talk.
Exactly. Blink twice,
Blink twice if you're under duress.
No, she's such a, oh man, she's helped me out with so many things. Like I can't tell her, or I can't communicate how important it's been. Yeah. And just like, it's funny because the things that she struggles with, I'm very good with. She's got a temper on her. She's very hot-headed. She's, half Latin and all that stuff. So, man, when that Latin rears its head, it's like, okay, I got to step in and be like, calm down. It's like, everything's okay. We don't need to blow up the house. Everything's fine. And she'll be, yeah, okay, you're right. Like, we don't need to sell the house because the water heater went out. No, let's just get a new water heater. It sucks. Yeah, but everything will be okay. So, I mean, everybody's got that yin and yang. So, but communicate honestly and directly. Don't try to beat around the bush. Don't try to, quote unquote, spare people's feelings. Don't be a jerk about it. Don't be like, hey, stupid, I need you to do it this way the first time. Okay? But like, hey, so this was wrong. Now let's work on why it was wrong and let's fix it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people hear this is wrong and they're like, oh God, they're correcting you, and it's like, what a jerk. Yep. No, if they're willing to tell you, hey, this is wrong, they care about you so you don't do it again and get in trouble, especially in a work setting. Mm-hmm. If you're in a work setting and a manager or somebody comes up to you and be like, hey, we did this incorrectly, let's figure out why we did it incorrectly and fix it, that's a good manager. Why? Because they care about your performance. They care about you. They want you to have a job. If they didn't care about you and they just kept letting you make the same mistakes over and over and over again, do they really care? Not at all. So don't take direct communication as somebody being a jerk to you. Okay? If you don't like the tone they used, communicate with them back. Be like, hey, I appreciate the message, but the way it sounded coming at me was a little combative. I don't know if that was the thing. Was that supposed to be a thing? And talk openly and communicate. Oh, I feel like none of that happens, and it gets irritating when you see it. So, all right, moving on to the next question. Okay, if you could go back in time, where would it be and why?
I'd go back in time and invest in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Then all of a sudden, speaking of that, did you ever watch the Big Bang episode where Leonard, Raj, and Howard did mine some Bitcoin and they put it on a flash drive?
Yep.
And then Sheldon took the flash drive and hid it from him and ended up losing it. So they're like, so they mined it on a certain laptop. Then they figured out that Leonard gave that laptop to Penny. Then Penny gave that laptop to an old boyfriend, Zach. And then they had to contact Zach to get that old boyfriend. And then they brought it back and they're like, where's the Bitcoin? And then that's when Sheldon came and he's like, I loaded it on a flash drive and put it on your Batman like flash drive thingy on your keychain.
Been with him the whole time.
No, he lost it.
Oh.
And he goes, Sheldon, I lost that keychain 3 months ago. And he goes, oh. And then he realized the big mistake he made because they could have made a lot of money. And he's like, well, I think we've all learned a valuable lesson here. And oh man, so Bitcoin, huh?
No, that's just the mogul, right? Wants to see like, oh, missed opportunity, but in all reality, it's like if you want to go back in time, it should be to like be there at one of the like the big events, right? To learn to maybe be that fly on the wall in Da Vinci's workshop or whatever. Like there are so many things that we've lost to time that I mean, the one place I would probably want to go is to like see what it was like back in the New Testament era, So to hear those conversations, to be there. Could I understand them? Probably not. But
if you could travel back in time, I'm pretty sure.
It sounds like we'd have a translator.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you got a translator with you.
I was not in the fine print of this question.
No, but we're just going to take
assume
some creative liberties.
Yeah.
Hey, what, you mean Jesus didn't speak English?
What do you mean? What?
Oh, man.
What?
The TV has lied to me.
Short hair? No way.
He doesn't look like Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Doesn't look like the photos?
Dang it. But no, I agree with you. If you're going to go back into time, it better be to some like massive historical moment. Just to, again, see if it really happened that way.
Yeah.
It's like, are the history books telling us the truth? I don't know. We have to assume they are because nobody was there. Okay. So yeah, I agree. If you're saying like, oh, I'd love to go back to my high school era or like when
I gotta relive the glory days.
Okay, you got some issues that we need to sit down. We need to talk. We need to talk about this. No, I agree. I would definitely love to see and hear like places like the Colosseum when it was actually a thing. Like, was it as grotesque and
as Spartacus makes it out to be?
Exactly. Or were the crowd just as bad as what was going on in the arena?
Yeah.
Like, was Rome just a filthy cesspool, or was it full of dignified, people, or a combination of both? Like, you don't know. Because nowadays you ask people, was Rome good or bad? It's like, well, wasn't it good? Well, sure, but they did have a lot of slaves. Half of their empire was slaves. Apparently if you talk to people nowadays, if you have anything to do with slaves, you're bad. So I figured if they've done as much, they did as much good as they did bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely love to go back to those places like
golden age of piracy, Well, how did a group of independent people form their own country in the Bahamas, form their own state, took it over from the crowns of Europe?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, you're big into the pirate stuff, and it's like exactly. It's like how could a group of pirates take over a country in the Bahamas?
They were great at keeping records. you
Yeah.
know, they didn't want to do that. They were busy doing other things. But
Yeah,
that'd be on the list of things to go back and observe.
yeah. I would definitely love to go back to like the revolutionary times,
Oh, for sure.
like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, just to kind of see how they carried themselves, see how they talked, and really, like, because again, we're assuming that it's like we're this like fly because we're not trying to change history,
Right. We can't change anything.
We can't change anything, but we'd want to witness it, so they can't see us or hear us or anything like that. I'd love to see them on their own private times when they're not in front of people, because again, that shows like people's true character.
Yeah.
So it's like, are they as virtuous as we think they are? I'm hoping they are, because I don't want these like images to be shattered of certain people. But yeah, I'd love to. God, there's just so many places you just can't pick one for sure. Like Da
Library
Vinci.
of Alexandria.
Yeah.
The whole huge place gone.
Yeah, exactly.
All that knowledge of the ages gone.
Yeah, how much history have we lost to time?
Yeah.
Just because of improper record keeping, or pillaging,
Natural disasters.
Yeah.
Pillaging.
Like countries coming in and basically being like, not only are we going to wipe you off of the planet, but we're going to wipe you out of history as well. Like a lot of people don't realize that's what they tried to do. Not only did they try to conquer you, but they tried to erase you from history. So anything that was written about you was burned or destroyed. So it's like, man, it was a ruthless time. But yeah, the samurai age, just seeing how they lived their lives, and Da Vinci, Aristotle, like the Greek philosophers.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I have no desire to be like seeing like Shakespeare, like the artsy, like the only artist person I'd want to see would be Da Vinci.
What about musicians? What about Mozart, Beethoven?
No. My mom would,
Of course.
but like, no, that doesn't really kind of like get me excited to
the
be
sciences?
like, yeah.
Okay.
Not only that, but like I don't think like the music or the arts in that aspect changed history.
Okay.
That's very debatable, very debatable. And I understand that, but I'm thinking in terms of like what transformed history, or what made history, so to speak. Like events and people, not necessarily like
Cultures
styles
and stuff.
Yeah. Because every culture goes through its wave and eventually dies and transforms into something else. But like the people are kind of the same. So yeah, that one's a tough one. I would definitely say like I'd love to go to the Colosseum in Rome. Love to see like a Senate meeting with the Roman, senators. I guarantee it's exactly what it is today, where it's like some of them were really good, some of them were corrupt as all get out.
Yep.
It's like nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
History repeats itself, but it repeats itself in a different form.
Yep.
So instead of the Romans, it's the Americans. So that's where it's like, yeah, you always want to learn from history so you don't repeat the bad things. But yeah, I'd love to, and it even sounds weird to say, but like it'd probably be scary and like disturbing, but like going to a like in 1940s Germany.
Ooh, okay.
When the Nazi regime took over, it's like, how did he truly come into power? Did he take it by force? Did he just was a sweet talker and just like influenced everybody, and then the next thing you know, you're like, oh my god, I've made the wrong decision, but it's too late? Like, how did Hitler truly come into power? Because it's like you've never seen a leader like him like influence a mass amount of people that did awful things, and he made citizens do them too. It's like, how can you have a person like convince citizens to do something they know is not good? But it's weird. Like, he would probably be like, I don't know. Sounds weird to be like, hey, you want to go back and like see that type of era? Yes and no. I wanted to go back to learn from it so we can see the signs of it happening again and being like, hey, this is happening again. This needs to stop. So I would use it more of a learning tool as opposed to like, oh my gosh, like if you met like Abraham Lincoln, like, holy crap, there's Abraham Lincoln. Like, that's so cool. It'd be tough not to like hop out of the device, whatever you're in, and like not strangle Hitler. Be like, you piece of shit. Like,
Right.
But that's a different topic. But yeah, like Jesus, like even just like meeting Jesus, like is he as virtuous as we, proclaim he is, like being the Son of God? Was he your typical man that had the title of the Son of God? Like, we don't know because we're just assuming, and by faith and all that stuff, we're taking what the written word has told us, and we're having faith that that's actually the truth. Which, I mean, that's the basis of faith.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're exercising it all the time.
Yes.
But yeah, and just seeing like how he interacted with people. Because again, he influenced a lot of people at the same time. Did they use similar techniques? Did they use, like, I don't know. The tone, obviously tone's a big thing, and I don't know. I just envision, like, let's still speaking of like Jesus, I envision him not looking very quote unquote holy. Like, he's probably dirty. He's probably got like ragged clothes. I mean, he technically was homeless. I mean, what would you call him? What's the word I'm looking for? Where they don't have migrate. He's just like migrating from place to place. I don't think he ever had like one area where it's like, this is where he stayed for X amount of time. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, that's not what we're portraying him as now, but that's probably how he looked like. And it's like, how could somebody that doesn't look very outwardly looking like this, the Son of God, how did he convince people that, or I shouldn't say convince, how did he let the message speak for itself that he is? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's a, have you ever thought about that? I mean, being from like kind of your religious background.
I thought a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot of stuff to put into words right now, but it's like, yeah, there's quite a bit of discrepancy versus the mainstream Jesus that we see and what Jesus was in the Bible.
Exactly. I mean, that was like a broad topic, just throw at you right there.
Give me a synopsis. Give me a thesis here.
But it's like, I don't know, just speaking out loud, just talking about that, I was like, that's got to be how it was. Mm-hmm. I mean, we always think like through movies and like, our own imagination.
We have representation.
Yeah, exactly. We have this concept of what it looked like. That's probably not really what it looked like. I mean, it looked similar to it, but if you look at like all the artist renderings of, biblical times, they're all fairly clean. It's like, you can't tell me they were clean all the time. Come on now. It's like, they probably bathed once a year, if that, because they lived in the desert. I mean, how can they shower every day? You can't.
It's hard to do that when there's no rain.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know. There's just weird things that popped into my head.
Please comment where you'd like to travel back in time to.
Exactly. And if you feel like they were as clean as they are in their artist renderings.
Yeah.
So, moving on. Last question for the day. This one was mine because just talking to Jamie about like going back in time and influences and this and that, I was like, this is a good one to talk about. This will create a lot of discussion or a lot of fights. Who knows? We'll see. Who do you think had a bigger influence on the martial arts industry? Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. Now, I agree. The short.
Here's the thing. Bruce Lee makes martial arts incredibly epic. Jackie Chan makes martial arts look awesome and fun. and like the drunken master style
Yeah.
of what Jackie Chan does. It's like, man, I want to do that so bad. I want to use the slapstick style of what we see him portray in the movies. But you could look at somewhat of what Bruce Lee can do, or what he did, and what he won. It's insane.
Yeah, the short answer is, if they lived the same amount of time, Bruce Lee would have a bigger influence.
Yeah.
But since he only lived as long as he did, only living to 33 years old, I believe he has made a huge influence. So this isn't a knock on his impact on the industry, but Jackie Chan's made a bigger impact because he's been around longer. That's the unfortunate truth, in my opinion. No, that's the unfortunate truth, because I mean, still to this day, if you go up to the novice person, you're like, "Hey, do you know who Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan is?" Like, I can't tell you. I was in like my teens before I realized Jackie Chan was a dude. Like, I thought he was a girl with Jackie. Mm-hmm. I've never heard a guy named Jackie before. So when we went, my dad took me to go see Rumble in the Bronx when it was here in the States. I think we went to Sandy Movies 9 when it was still open. And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to go see this movie with Jackie Chan." I was like, "Dad, I don't want to see a movie about a Chinese girl. Come on." Mm-hmm. He's like, No. It's a martial arts. It's like a karate movie." And I was like, "Whatever." And it was the baddest ass movie I had seen at that point. I was like, "This movie's freaking awesome. You mean this Jackie guy is a dude that can kick ass?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What?" It's like, why haven't I heard of this before? So, like, but yet if you hear the Bruce Lee, everybody's like, "Yeah, he's that karate person, that martial arts person." Mm-hmm. Like, everybody knows, and the shaking of the head and the weird noises, and like, whoa, like everybody knows, like, that's Bruce Lee. Mm-hmm. So it's like both of them, I feel like, have made a huge influence, and they've both made them in different ways. Mm-hmm. Like, Bruce Lee was more of the like stoic philosopher, very serious type. Well, you already alluded to it. Jackie Chan was not. He was more the slapstick, like, he punches somebody in the face and his hand, she's like, "Oh God, my hand hurts."
Yep.
You know? And I remember listening to an interview with Jackie Chan. I don't even know what movie he was promoting. He was talking about something, but they were talking about after Bruce Lee died, how they tried to turn him into the next Bruce Lee.
Oh, wow.
They're like, "Hey, you're going to be our next quote unquote Bruce Lee star. You need to do things exactly like he did." And he said he did that for like 1 or 2 movies, and he's like, they were awful. Yeah. He's like, because I'm not Bruce Lee. He's like, it's never gonna happen. He's like, I'm Jackie. He's like, I was a stunt person and like a choreographer and this and that. Like, if somebody hits me, it hurts. And it's like, how? Mm-hmm. And you turn around, your jaw hurts, and but yet you can still throw down with the best of them. Mm-hmm. And that always struck me in terms of like, man, they tried to turn him into Bruce Lee, but then he realized there's only one Bruce Lee, and he's gone. Yeah, it's like you can't replicate that again.
That's a powerful point right there, and I think it can be translated into like, it's like you can look at somebody like mm-hmm. Grandmaster Lenton and be like, "Oh, I want to be the next one," but you're you, and he's him. So,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's you're going to run into people at tournament that are going to be different, mm-hmm. and some of them might be really good at whatever it is they do, and you'd be like, "Oh, I want to be like that," and you can try, and you can emulate, and you can put things in place to put yourself on that path, but you're going to be you on that path. Yeah, you're not going to steal their identity.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I agree, because you being with the Kempo system, yeah, we're always looking at things and be like, "Yep, that's still
take what works."
I'm going to take that. That was cool. Like, oh man, that was rad. Let's try it in here. Let's mm-hmm. see if it works. And we're always taking things from other systems and other people and trying to incorporate it in ours to be like, that was good. Let's keep it. Or, no, no, that sucked. Like, get rid of it. And it's like, that's how you take viewing other people or trying to emulate people. It's like, God, I really admire their kicks. I'm going to work hard to get kicks like that, but I know I'm not going to be that.
Right.
But that I'm going to use that as a basis. Like, okay, that's how kicks are supposed to look like. I'm going to kick like that. Like, I'm going to kick like Van Damme. Yeah. Everybody's wanting to kick like Van Damme back in the day. The dude was a good kicker. Like, oh my gosh. If you've never seen a Van Damme movie, like, the dude can throw some legs, man. Yeah. Holy crap. And it's like okay, now that I've been doing martial arts for as long as I have, when I watched those movies as a kid, this is when you know somebody's good. When you watch something, you're like, oh, I can do that. Mm. No, you can't. You absolutely cannot. And that's when you're like, that guy was really good. The fact that, like, he would hold kicks out and it was almost like a pose. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Like, we've all done exercises here where it's like, all right, hold your leg out. Yeah. And it's like your waist level and you're like dying. And he's got his foot like over his head, yeah, with his foot flexed and his leg straight. And you're like, you're not even flinching. Like, are you even moving or what the hell? Yeah. Like, there's a scene in particular from the movie Kickboxer. Okay. I don't know if you've ever watched that one. Yeah. So remember at the end after he's beating Tong Po, mm-hmm, and he's like just roundhouse kick, hook kick, and then he side blade kicks him in the face and knocks him out. Yep. And then he rechambers, pivots, and then roundhouse kicks the dude next to him. That right there, I was like, holy crap. That is so hard to do, but yet it looks so easy to do that it makes me mad. Mm-hmm. You're like, that should not look that easy to do. But it's, oh my gosh, it's impressive to say the least. So, getting back to Jackie Chan, though.
That's good. Let's
Chan and Bruce Lee,
here.
Not Van Damme.
Yeah, come on.
I would say, long story short, Jackie Chan's had a longer influence on the industry because he's been around longer. I mean, I think he has 200 movie credits to his name. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
He's in a lot of things. That's
insane. I think Bruce Lee would have had a bigger influence if he lived longer. Unfortunately, it's that whole like adage, you know, the brightest stars burn the fastest, and then they're gone. So, not taking away from either one of them, they both had their things they were good at. Mm-hmm. Okay, Jackie Chan was a stuntman. Yeah, I mean the fact that he did. Okay, if you've never seen some of his old stunts, you were like, how is he not dead yet? Yeah, like he should have died 30 years ago. Okay. The dude's in his 80s, I believe, and he's still doing stuff. It's insane. So I encourage everybody to look at those old Jackie Chan movies and not tell me that the dude's impressive. Okay. Now, again, Bruce Lee is impressive in and of itself, but he's impressive also more from like a traditional martial arts standpoint. Where, like, as a traditional martial artist, you're like, okay, that dude's good. Like, mm-hmm, he can move. You know, Jackie Chan's good in a theatrical standpoint. Or I'm not saying he couldn't fight. Pretty sure the dude can throw down if he really wanted to. But he's very good in that, like, over-the-top drama, theatrical type scenario. Because it's funny, because, you know, you always get the questions, who would win in a fight between so on and so on. And it's like, I've had that question a bunch of times. Who would win in a fight between Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee? Mm-hmm. First question I ask, is there any objects in the room? Right. If there's an object in the room, Jackie Chan's winning. Yep. Because he can use anything to his advantage. If it's just mano-a-mano, I think Bruce Lee's going to win.
That's right.
So, yeah, it's funny because you could always count on Jackie Chan using some random object in the scene.
So awesome.
To his advantage. I think it was in the movie First Strike. He used a ladder, like a 10-foot ladder, as like a bow staff. He was flinging it around his head, hitting people with it. And it's like, what in the world is, like, who would have thought of that? Mm-hmm. So the fact that he had that type of creative mind, you're like, okay, the dude's good. Dude's way good. So, yeah, unfortunately, Bruce Lee passed way too soon. man, you can only what if. Like, well, what would he have done only if he lived longer?
Right.
And I go through that with only a handful of people.
Yeah.
I've done that with Bruce Lee, obviously, passing away at 33. It's crazy. Like, you're almost his age.
Yep.
Like, that would be like, when I hit 33, I was all like, that kind of freaked me out too, because Jesus was 33 also. You know, not saying they're the same, okay, but they're both the same age. And then you got people like Kobe Bryant, 41, just retired from basketball, won an Oscar, and then gone, just like that. You know, Paul Walker, in his 40s, you know, driving home from a charity gig, car accident, boom, gone. You know, you look at these people and they're like the ones that left too soon. Man, if they lived as long as the average person, what could they have done? You know, things to ponder, but not like get stuck up on, because you can't get into those what ifs.
You can't get into them. That goes back to our time traveler question.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, would you go back and try to influence to like keep someone alive longer?
That's true.
That would be there. But then what would happen?
Exactly. It's like I'm a very much of a believer in, like, you're in control of your own fate and your own destiny, but whatever happens for a reason. So, like, the reason these people left us the way they did that early was for a reason. I may not understand that reason right now, but it's for a reason. And you don't have to like the reason, but everything happens for a reason. So, but let us know what you guys think about the whole Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan debate. I like both of them.
Yeah, me too.
I think just by pure time, obviously Jackie Chan's had a bigger influence on the industry just because he's got 200 movie credits to his name.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce Lee only has 4 or 5, if that. Not saying they're not good, but yeah, it's just he left us too soon. So, but yeah, I would love to hear what you guys think about all 3 of the questions, to be honest with you. Is there a particular event in your life that you're like, man, that taught me so much about myself, or that taught me so much about people, or whatever, taught you the most about anything? And then if you could go back in time, like, would you or would you not? Who would you want to see? Why would you want to see them? And then obviously just who had the bigger influence, Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee? Depends on if you're a serious person, if you're a happy-go-lucky person, I guess. But moving on to our last portion of the show.
Let's take a moment to celebrate the unsung champions this week. You know, folks, I may be Iron Man, but you're the true heroes in this story.
Our shout outs. So, shout outs for the week. Each week, we always like to try to kind of highlight a person, either from the dojo or not from the dojo, to give them props, something that we've seen that's been like extraordinary, so to speak. Be like, man, they've done a lot, and like, you know what, they need to have some recognition. So, Stephen, who's your shout out for this week?
So yeah, I'm shouting out Richard Iverson and Randy Brown.
Okay.
Because for our activity, we did dragon tail sparring last night, and I'd added some resistance bands around the waists of the competitors, and they were the anchors. So they held on, and they did a really good job of making it a more difficult event for everyone, and I appreciated their sacrifice, because I know they kind of wanted to get in there too, but they were good sports about it, so I'm shouting them out.
Yeah, no, they definitely, I think they would want to get into it for maybe a round, and then they're like, okay.
I could tell they were tired. We did a lot of sparring yesterday.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, good. Well, my shout out is it's going to be Jamin for this week for providing the questions for us. I thought they were pretty thought provoking for someone just on their way to the dentist. So I was thinking like more slapstick type questions, and when he pulls those out, I was like, okay,
deep thinker. Yeah,
dang. All right, we'll go with it, dude. Nicely done. So yeah, again, in the comments, is there anybody that you would like to shout out? You know, hashtag them or add them or whatever it is that you need to do to let them know that you're shouting them out, and give them a holler. Be like, hey, man, we appreciate you. So that's the show for today. Next week, we should have a special guest on. I don't need to reconfirm, but he did say he was going to do it, so I'm just going to put it out there right now. We should be having from California, Christopher Reinhardt on the show. Doc Chris is a good pal of mine. He's been in the arts for a long time. He's a actual registered ER doctor from LA. Probably one of the smartest human beings I've ever met. Hopefully he doesn't talk too eloquently with us, and we have to tell him to be like, use words normal people know, please. Yep. But he's a great person. He's a very stand-up person. He's got probably some of the most impeccable character besides Master Lenten that I've known. And he stands up for people, and he doesn't like bullies. And maybe he'll talk about the story. I don't know if he can or can't, but his departure and our departure from United Studios was kind of spearheaded by him in terms of like they tried to do some awful things to him, and it's like, no, we can't get down with that. And that was one of the major reasons where we're like, okay, if they're going to do that to him, like, he's a good person. Like, I'm not down with that. Like, we got to reevaluate things. So next week, we'll have Doc Chris on the show, and man, we'll have some fun with him. So he likes to talk as well. He's another long talker. So who knows how much time we're going to get out of him.
I think all these long talkers are getting pretty contagious.
Yeah.
We've been going for a while, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't even turned and looked at the screen, but I'm thinking we're going for a while.
It's been a while.
So, but that is the show for today. So thank you for joining us. Feel free to like and subscribe and share the show, please. We're just trying to get the message out there to have a good time, and hopefully we say some things that make you better. And, our whole motto here with TruMotion is building better people. So we just want to make sure we do our part to build the best people that we can. So, but make sure to kick it with us next time, everybody.
Kick it with us next week. Bye, everyone.